the laws as the way that we see it in India, they have actually come via the British. The British people, as they came to India, brought with them the system of laws. It is to them it came from the Roman Saxon traditions, and there it originated in the Roman Saxon tradition through the Turkic influences, where the Qanun had originated originally. In comparison, if you look at how India has fared, India was never a single unified entity. The Hindu Dharma is basically a polytheist faith with syncretic beliefs. The Roman Saxon traditions and all, they come from the monotheistic faith and strictly rigid unified way of belief, points of belief. So over here we have syncretic beliefs. In them there are unified system of belief. Consequently, the political consciousness within Indian people is low. Let's put it straight. The political consciousness within Indians is low, as it originates from the original Vedic Hindu philosophy. Whereas within the monotheistic faith with unified system of belief, the political consciousness within the people is high. Therefore, it happened to them that in order to rule the country, the system of first thing that we understand, the idea of nationalism never came to India. Whatever happened, it happened within the Europeans. In India, a little bit of consciousness, political consciousness, can be seen in some episodes, such as that of Chanakya, when Alexander had attacked. So some sort of little political consciousness was seen within the Hindu Brahmins. And then some of the rural communities. But the system remained polytheistic in nature with syncretic beliefs. Consequently, the full-grown nationalism, as the way we know and experience it today in today's world, didn't come to India. In contrast, a well-founded nationalism system originated in the West, and the religious system was promoting it. Therefore, in order to rule the country, the system of laws emerged, which was practiced uniformly by all the people all over the country. So whatever were the laws, accordingly were the rituals, religious rituals of the people. They were all in conformity. The laws were very much in conformity with the religious rituals of the people. And the religious rituals were also the source of the laws. So the morality, the ethics that were received by the people through their religious meanings, they only became the source of laws, the original laws. Now here is the thing. This obviously did not exist within the Hindu people because of the diverse beliefs and mutually conflicting ideas. The morality and ethics of the people too were never single unified. Consequently, the laws also did not exist. Now, that is a true truth many people may not accept. How come when you're saying the British, the Brahmins wanted the Manusmriti to come around, then you say that laws do not exist. What is Manusmriti then? People may question, what is Manusmriti? It is not a law. Now, here is the catch about Manusmriti too. The truth is, Manusmriti was not well known or understood until the time the British came. Now, that is a very, very astonishing thing and difficult to grasp until people are really emotionally inclined to accept what has happened. The British, the laws, system of laws and all did exist strongly, not just between the Christian people but also within Islamic people. Both of them, as we know, are Abrahamic faiths. So as the British came to India, the kind of political consciousness was high within the Muslims of India in relation to the Hindus. The Hindus were not politically high in having high political consciousness. No high political consciousness. The Muslims in return, due to consciousness, had Sharia system. The Hindus had no single unified thing. The British wanted to rule India as per the traditions of India. So they asked the Hindu people, the Brahmins, what is it that you have a single unified law through which we can rule your country? And it is here that somehow that Manusmriti found its origin. The document was rare, the publishing system did not exist. All of it was mostly, you can understand, by memory, recitation, and very rarely available, not codified, and therefore not steady in nature. It was codified, it was translated in English by the British, and it is from here that it became commonly known even to the Hindus, even to the Brahmins, who today claim that yes, we should be ruled by Manusmriti. So that is how Manusmriti found a way within the Indian society, even the Hindu society, which earlier, before the British came, the Hindu society itself was not fully aware and conscious of what is Manusmriti and why do we require it. Every group of Hindus had its own traditions and beliefs, and that is how they were governing it. The British, since their system practiced the courts, the advocacy and all, they wanted unified, codified system of law from the Hindus in order to be able to decide on the cases while maintaining the homogeneity of the decisions, and therefore that is how this book came into existence, the Manusmriti. The Muslims already had one. Now that is a catch. People might not accept, but the political consciousness and everything was higher and advanced in the Muslims as compared with the Hindus. Important is to remember that the Hindus did not have the sense of morality and ethics too within them. No available. It's a different question whether the other groups have it right or wrong, but then we must accept that the Muslims and the British had little bit advanced sense of morality and ethics. So consequently the Sharia existed and within the Muslims, and the Christians, they had Testament, the Bible, through which their morality was developed, and over time as Protestantism came around, the secularism came around, the written codified new laws were written, the penal codes were founded, and they developed one such penal code for India too, which today we understand by the term Indian Penal Code. So where did the Indian Penal Code originate from? It basically originated from the Christian morality, set of Christian morality and belief. Be mindful now here that the IPC, although it is a law of India, has not actually originated from the Hindu beliefs and the Hindu morality, and that's because there never existed one. The Hindu belief, the Hindu ethics, the Hindu morality did not exist. So the constitution, the people, the question is to examine the question whether constitution is actually accepted by the people and practiced by them or not. We first need to accept the truth that the people do not have any idea about the very acts which are supposed to come into effect by the powers of the constitution. No, there is a dismissing point that the people even to this day have a different set of morality and ethics. The traditions are not conforming to the laws. The laws may talk about pollution prevention, the laws may talk about this, that, whereas the morality and ethics of the people may demand them very regularly to act otherwise. So it is very common that the law is something, whereas the people in their religious beliefs want some other thing. And here you can see another reason why I would say the constitution has been a failure. Because in simple terms, the constitution does not eventually promote decrease in the legislation and the legal contest, litigation. The constitution does not promote decreasing in the litigation. Whatever is given within the constitution, in order to achieve that, the only way is you continue to fight, you continue to litigate. This is a very big sign to say that the constitution has been a failure. An ideal constitution should be the one which decreases litigation. On the contrary, the Indian Constitution promotes litigation. And why does this amazing thing happen? That's because the religious beliefs of the people, the morality, the ethics, everything is very much in conflict with the constitutional morality. So there is the thing. The high ideals of the constitution, they sound to be very virtuous, very pious, and therefore it is very difficult for the groups of people to accept or reject them while citing a reason why, what, how. So what happens? Consequently, this amazing situation occurs. The people they give a lip service. All right, we accept the values of the constitution, but when it comes to practicing it, they eventually start practicing their own religious beliefs, views, and then they fall in conflict. And every time, the only way you can achieve the high values of the constitution is by undergoing a litigation process. The cost of litigation is high. It is a difficult process. Not everybody can achieve it. As a result, consequently, whatever is given in the book, high values, they became accessible and enjoyable only by the select few people who have the power and the resources. For rest of the people, the constitution does not bring about anything, any requisite change. And that is what I wanted to speak. To speak more on the topic, maybe in future videos. As of now, this is Ryan. Thank you so much.